Thank you for watching the Whittemore Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.
Yes, we are live. Is that correct? Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
Good, fantastic. But probably a number of things that are skipped. I regret to say that April is on a hiatus. A well-deserved moment of rest for her. She's got so many things, and she's just doing so many wonderful things that. So we want to just let you know that. But she'll be back with us. Okay. Hopefully pretty soon. So I want to say good evening to our audience. And welcome to the Whittemore Community Magazine live broadcast. We are coming to you live on Facebook, and you can see us on our magazine, wcmagazine.net. We usually start off with our I don't use the word appreciation, but our condolences and our well wishes to all of our sick and shut in all around the area. In fact, all around the nation, especially in light of the past week. Well, I understand a lot of people have been suffering from anxiety over the election and stuff like that. So, well, in spite of all that, I think everybody seems to be recuperating now. So, but anyway, I want to say good evening to everybody, and on behalf of myself and my co-host April, I'm sure she's looking though, so she's gonna let me know if I'm doing something wrong. So. Miss her on this show, man. So we with our audience today, our guest today, as you all can see, we have Reverend Richard Williams. Reverend Williams is the pastor of Mount Vernon Church, Baptist Church in Nichols, South Carolina. We have Minister Amanda Butler. Yeah, right. And she is an educator, a notable educator around the area, and a very youthful person that seems to want to get acquainted with all the activity that's going on in especially Horry County and around. So she has a lot to offer. Brother Lee Moultrie. Brother Lee is a community activist in North Charleston, South Carolina. I never want to get those two mixed up. Okay. North Charleston, South Carolina. And lastly but not least, Pastor Stephen Brown.
Yes.
Also known as, I don't know if he's got what that means, rather, but I guess that's fresh water. That's what that known as. So we want to say welcome to all of you today, and hopefully our audience can join in with us and just carry the discussion on. We have a lot to discuss, we believe, on a post-election analysis. We decided to do this analysis because this actually gives our audience the opportunity to witness what some points and opinions coming from selected people, like we selected you all, the four of you. And next week, hopefully, we can add some more people to do this. Okay, so one of the basic questions was, and I'll kind of start clockwise. One of the basic question was, where do we go from here in the event that the current there's a current change in administration, not final yet, but if that takes place, if that is solidified, where does it go? Where do we go as a people in our community? Okay. And I'd like to start with Reverend Richard Williams. I'm sure you have a lot to say especially out there in Mount Vernon, Nichols, South Carolina. You let those people know, man. So brother, let's hear from you on that.
I first want to say thank you for the invitation to join this wonderful panel of people who are very influential in our community. And I just want, as we're looking at what we've experienced in the last couple of days, I think we should first just relish in where we are and what it took to get here, and just take in the moment that we're in. The fact that we have the first female vice president in our country's history, and that female just happens to be an African American, I think is quite weighty. And we need to just admonish where we are and the sacrifices that our community have made so that we could appreciate just that. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say. I'm sure I have much more to say about it as our wheels get to turning about what to do next. But I think the first thing we just need to do is just recognize where we are and not take this moment for granted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. So, Sister Amanda?
Yes, I agree. I think we should embrace this moment. And it's definitely a moment to exhale, right? I know for the 4 years, we've really just kind of been holding our breath a little bit, been watching some things go on in our country that should not go on. And we're coming to an end of a divisive rhetoric. The thing is, though, this is really where everything happens. I'm also a basketball coach. And so one of the things that I always say is that the season really starts in postseason, right? So now we're in postseason. We've finished this 4 years. We've finished this election. Now it's time to hit the ground running and really start mobilizing as a community. Because we focus so much on the general elections and we forget about the primaries. And we can't lose sight of our local government and things that need to happen locally and changes that need to happen locally. So yes, we are exhaling. We are taking a deep breath because we have come to an end of a presidency that has been extremely divisive, hateful rhetoric. We are ending a cycle where we had a president that did not denounce racism and white supremacy. So that's a lot to take in. Especially within the Black community, and we are finally coming to an end. But like you said, where do we go from here? We can't just sit back on our heels. We can't just sit back in our houses and not do anything. Now is the time where we mobilize as a community, where we get together and say, okay, we have the primaries coming up. What do we want to see changed? I think we took a major hit when we did not elect Jamie Harrison.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that. We took a major hit. We had an opportunity to make a change in South Carolina and we failed. So now we're thinking about what do we do now to move our state into a better state. Okay. So I don't think we can get complacent. I think we can, yes, relax in the fact that we are finally closing the chapter to a book that needed to be closed. But I think we have to mobilize and get together and find out what do we do now and who do we need to put in place to move our state forward.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to come back to you. We got some more, but oh
yeah, because I need to pick it back on that. So we're gonna go back around the circle.
Yeah. All right, let's get some freshwater fish on here. Reverend Brown, I'm just trying to throw a plug in for you, brother. That's all I'm trying to do.
Hey, I'm not mad at you.
Yes, sir. So give us your analysis on that.
Well, as my dear friend Pastor Williams said, we should relish. I mean, I have been celebrating really since election night. I kind of saw the direction, and I knew within my heart that we would be at this place now. But I'm also very excited about what Amanda said, what my dear sister shared about the word community. It's now time for us to go back into the community and mobilize and prepare our community to move forward. Oftentimes we get caught up in the national politics. We get caught up in the national campaigns, and we overlook the local campaigns. We overlook the local struggles. But if I'm not mistaken, it was Tip O'Neill, former Speaker of the House many years ago, who is coined with saying this or making this expression popular. But he said, all politics are local. All politics are local, meaning until we start making change and until we start preparing people at the local level, meaning whatever your community is, whatever your neighborhood might be, if it's in Conway, Sand Ridge, Bucksport, wherever your community is, you got to get in. We got to get in and do the work there. All politics start on a local level so that we can see significant change when it comes to local elections and when it comes to local policies. So I was really excited to hear her mention community. And I believe that we have to get into the communities now and start working some of those platform agendas that we have so that we can make significant change that will last more than just 4 years.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Brown. Okay, let's go all around in North Charleston with the Lee Moultrie.
Okay. All that has been said has been great. And Brother Ed, I thank you for the opportunity again to share some information. As we move forward from this point here, the one thing as you go to work within our community, the first thing we want to find out in teaching the community what needs to be done, we need to educate the community on who are their elected officials. Let me repeat that.
Yeah.
Who is your elected official? For each individual on this panel right now, each of you may have different elected officials for your city council, your mayor, county council, state legislator, federal. Well, it's only going to be Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham. But we need to go, we can go to SC Votes, and each individual can put in their address and get who their elected officials are. That's the first thing we want to teach people. And once we've taught them who their local representatives are, then we want them to go to the state and federal level. And once we've taught them that, then we want to teach them relative to what is happening in the city council meeting. Who's going to be attending that from these two pastors right here, their church, and the young ladies here? Who from your different organization is attending city council meeting, the county council meeting, the school board meeting, and who's reporting back to who? Because everybody can't go to everything. So as a coalition, as a community, as an organization, we have these representatives to get that information, and then they come back and debrief everyone else. That's just a start. So I'll go ahead and let it settle in, then I'll let the next question come forward. And I can build on that as we go forward, but I don't want to maximize the time.
Oh, we appreciate that, brother. We appreciate that. Reverend Williams, you wanted to kind of go further with what Minister Amanda said earlier. Now's your chance. You can go ahead. You want to?
Sorry,
Yeah.
mute my.
Sorry.
Amanda was talking about the community, and the other Reverend Brown and Brother Moultrie also talked about the community. And what I was just going to say is that we do now have a prototype when we look at the state of Georgia and what they were able to accomplish. Helps us to see that it is doable, but it takes efforts like what Brother Moultrie was talking about, and understanding those things are important to making change. And I like what Reverend Brown talked about, what Tip O'Neill said, that all government is local government. So when she first mentioned community, the first thing I thought about was what Georgia has done. And if we could motivate Jamie to continue and not give up, I think there's a lot of things that he could do to help motivate our state, but we have to get behind him in the local levels and flip the state. And I think our focus should be on flipping the state. It is enough of us in the state of South Carolina who feel the same way, who could flip the state. And I know we're not supposed to be partisan here, but it's very hard to when we've been suffering for the last 4 years. And we now can take a breath. But I just wanted to piggyback on the fact that Georgia has given us an example. If we could follow it and use it as our prototype, I think we'll be well on our way in our community.
Yeah, and I don't want to piggyback on what you exactly what you said, but we're in a position where we can't really help from being partisan. Okay, based on what just happened and what we're all waiting on, and I understand that. Okay, so we'll have to be flexible here, even though we used a caveat about the consequences of being partisan like this, but this can't be helped. Okay, there aren't any consequences that I can foresee that we will be sharing in. So for being partisan, but I'm just trying to be as nonpartisan as possible, as much as possible. Okay, so let's just move on from. So how do you all think, and how do you rate the need to concentrate on economics more than anything else especially in the Black neighborhoods, in our Black community? Okay, so let's start at the bottom again this time. Brother Lee, what can you offer on that? How would you rate the need to concentrate on economics and opportunities in our Black communities?
I am in the process of working on a framework for the empowerment of the African American community. And if you want to look at a model, look at the Urban League's model. Whereas Urban League deals with economics, education, healthcare, social justice, and a couple other things. So you can't be one way.
Right.
Okay, so some people are more economic. I'm a business owner and also community development. Amanda is academics. Okay, right. The two pastors, they may have different strength in other area. And that's what I was sharing earlier. Where our gifts and talents are at, we go there and we come back collectively. So we don't want to make it all or none. And that's the model, and I'll send that to you. The model is who all are doing economics. If that's your skill set, that's your background, do economics. If you're education, do education, do that. If you're the NAACP, more than likely you're civil rights. If you're National Action Network, you're civil rights. Somebody else is education. So let us do where our gifts and talent leads us at, and collectively we can come back and be a whole community, not out of balance. And that is the model that I am using, and I am in conversations with state agencies that we can rebuild our community right now through Horry County and all throughout the place, that we'll be addressing those issues right pretty soon, and I'll be bringing it to you also.
Okay, thank you for that. But I'll ask you another question about that, Brother Lee, and that is, how can we put the two together? Because the rest of our guests on here are from the clerical community, or clergy community. I'm sorry. And yours is dealing with a lot of private entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So kind of, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it because I do want to get to the rest of them.
They're the best. They're in the best area. With them being two pastors, whether they got 5 members of their church or they got 20 members, the first thing that we want to do in that church is identify who is doing what within those churches. What are the skill sets we have in there? Then another sector, we want to find out who are the business owners in those churches. What is the nature of that business? Is it a product or is it a service? And then we work from that framework there. We build that up. And the people who may be in the church who are not business owners, what is the service that they provide in the occupation that they have? And then we making sure that everyone within that church and within that community understands the resources that we have within that household there. And to some degree, I feel that we have not maximized the value of the people within each of our churches because we don't know the talents that there are. How many people have been sitting next to each other for the past 10 years and don't know what the next person does in their job or in their business? So we have to move. This is the impetus for us to move forward in a different direction. And like you said, we can spend some more time another time, and I can share these things. But that's what you have a gold mine in a church. You just ain't cultivated them as much as we needed to.
Okay. Maybe we can get some comments on what Lee just said. Let's start with Reverend Williams or Pastor Brown or Reverend Brown, because since we want to go around counterclockwise.
I understand. Listen, I totally agree with Brother Lee. As a matter of fact, people are going to probably think you and I had a meeting prior to this broadcast. But if you could see my notes and really listen to my heart, everything you're saying is exactly what I've been preaching and teaching and sharing for months now, and even actually years. We cannot look at our community and believe that one pattern will fix everything. When we start talking about mobilizing and moving and moving forward and doing great things to help empower our community financially, it's not one thing. We all have the same work, but the assignments are different. And what we oftentimes do is we look at one person and we say, you got to do what I do. We're going to work on educating the people, and we're going to work on the academic side of it. And we're going to encourage going to college and getting a 4-year bachelor's degree, and then you'll get a master's, and all of that stuff is wonderful. Trust me, I believe in the value of education. I'm a graduate of an HBCU myself, so I'm not knocking that. But we also have to look at the trade schools. We have to look at who in our church or in our community is an entrepreneur who can come in and talk about skills and trades that don't require a person actually having to earn a 4-year degree. And when we can respect and honor those variations within our community, when we can look at someone and value what they bring to the table, not devalue them because they're not as educated as I am, or they don't have what I have, or no, value what they bring to the table, because it takes every aspect of it. Some people are going to be great with working with children. Then that's your assignment. You need to be involved in aftercare and daycare and tutorial. That's your assignment. And then somebody else is really good with working in various communities when it comes to drug addictions and things of that nature. Then that's their assignment. And at the end of the day, we're trying to get a community healthy so that financially we're preparing ourselves to move forward, not depending on the government to take care of us, but that we're empowered within our own community by agencies that are by the people. And I believe that that's where we got to start. It can't just be we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We have to respect the variations of our gifts and talents.
Amen.
Yes, sir. Yes. So, Amanda, Mr. Amanda.
There's so many places I want to go with this, so I'm gonna try to streamline.
We need them all.
But I think the first thing that I want to say is we first, as a community, have to learn our financial power, our buying power. We spend trillions of dollars on shoes and clothes and hair products and all of that, but we don't own anything. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, when I'm thinking, I'm like, who has a Black-owned beauty shop, or not beauty shop, like a beauty mart? Where can I go to get my hair care products? We have barbershops, we have beauty shops, we have all of that, but where can we really pull our economic power from? You know, and I often think of the old Wright grocery store, right? It was a Black-owned grocery store that was in town, and now we don't have a Black-owned grocery store.
Yeah.
So why don't we have one? You know, why can't we start pulling in our resources? Why can't we start doing this? Because we have the financial assets. When you think about all of the money from the Black community that goes to other things, that goes to Jordans, that goes to Nikes, that goes to hair products, when we think about all of that, if we streamline all of our resources within the Black community, that could really benefit us, right? But then I also have to say this. We also have to be mindful of who we're putting in place within our local government. It goes back to our local government and our local officials, right? So we don't have anybody sitting at the table. We don't have a voice. So we don't have someone on county council. Because let's think about it. If there's one Black with 9 whites on the county council, do we really have a voice? I don't think so. We have one person out of a room of 9 other whites who don't have an interest in our community. And I'm just speaking hypothetically, who might not have an interest in our community. Do we really have a voice at the table? When we look at city council, who do we have us representing at the city council? Do we have enough representation of the Black community on the city council? The reason why this is important is because when we have new businesses coming in, it goes through county council, it goes through city council, it goes through our elected officials. So when we start saying, let's bring in some businesses, or let's bring in some companies, that goes through our elected officials, okay? So I just think we have to start thinking, we have to build an infrastructure, I'll say that. We have to build a framework so that we are able to sustain ourselves financially as a community, because right now we can't. For example, and I'll say this, and I'll hush. So let's say Food Lion makes a public statement that's disrespectful to the Black community, and we come together and say we're going to boycott. Is there another grocery store that the Black people can patronize? Not necessarily. We go to Walmart, which is another big company. We can go to, a Piggly Wiggly or something like that. But there's not like a Black-owned company that's a grocery store that we can say, all right, we're going to boycott Food Lion until they hear our voice. And so we're going to go over to this grocery store that's Black-owned. You get what I'm saying? So it's like we really have to pull it in together and build an infrastructure that's going to help us sustain ourselves financially as a community.
Well, that's heavy, and but it shouldn't have to be heavy. Okay, I mean, we should be hearing this all the time. Okay, but I'm saying it's heavy because I just don't hear it that often. Okay, and I thank you so much for that.
And I just want to say this. I think that's the problem. We're not talking economics. We're talking about spending, and we got the holidays coming up, so we got people who are going to spend all of their money buying different things for their kids. Let's support our Black-owned businesses. And I will say this, I enjoy the network and being a business owner with the network, because it's a list of businesses and entrepreneurs who are Black in this area. let's support them. And the same way we hold, you know what I'm saying? We hold entrepreneurs to a different standard than we hold Walmart. For example, and I'll say this and I'll hush. So I make customized t-shirts. And so every now and then, if my supplier gives me bad vinyl, there may be an error on my shirt. But then you come and you blast me, but I'm a small business owner. But you can go to Walmart right now and they'll have a defective shirt and you won't say anything to Walmart. You get what I'm saying? We have to get out of that mentality where we're trying to hold entrepreneurs to a different standard than we would Walmart or Nike or any of those other stores. Not saying that we don't hold them to a standard, but we have to be kind to each other. I'll say it that way.
They call it the Willie Lynch syndrome.
Yes.
Oh, that is. Willie Lynch syndrome. So, having said that, I know Reverend Richard Williams can move further on that, on his analysis or comments on that. Go ahead, brother. You're muted.
I'm still muted. Oh, I'm done now. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if I have anything to add to that because I'm listening. I've heard Brother Moutry, and I heard Reverend Brown, and I thought I had something to say based on that, but then something else heavy, and I totally agree with you, Amanda, and I'm just sitting here, my wheels are turning, and the first thing I thought about, and then you kind of answered it, or you kind of leaned toward it, in the movie Jane Pittman. And when a child was born, they would ask, Jimmy Lee, is you the one? And so I was wondering who would be the one to help guide us in that way and to help continue to educate us on the things that we ought to know. I think we are not there just because we're not having these kinds of conversations on a broader level. So I thank you, Amanda, because those things are true. We know that. And we've seen it when we did Blackout Tuesday just a couple months ago. I think those types of things on a broader level, and if we would help us. And then Reverend Brown was talking about his plan in the church, which is we must have been talking to, because that's the whole reason why I'm in the ministry is because of the community. I was working for a nonprofit when I was 25, and that nonprofit was the Catholic Church, and I saw the Catholic Church doing for the Black community what I thought the Black church ought to be doing. And I think you and I have talked about this, Reverend Brown. That is how I came into ministry. And I think I'm in my 5th year of pastoring. I'm in my 2nd church. And the thing that I'm doing now is trying to build that infrastructure so that we can be a community church. And one of the things that I'm leading our church to thinking about is to become a real church, one that is relevant, one that is effective, one that is alive, and also linked to the community. And so I think Brother Moutry raised a question, about pastors and not knowing what our church has and being aware of that. I think Reverend Brown and I are on that page, and we just need to further do that. But then who's going to help us? Who's going to do the training? And I think one of the things that is to our detriment as Black entrepreneurs, as Black leaders, as Black anything we're running, a lot of times we don't have the infrastructure right. We don't have the training. We don't have the resources to be successful. And I think if we would organize ourselves in such a way that we will be a support system, I think the network is wonderful. This platform is wonderful. But we need to do more of this kind of stuff, so that when we launch out on our own, we have all the resources and we have longevity. We start up stuff, but we don't have the infrastructure in place in order to make it last forever. We see our white counterparts, they have businesses, they train their children, those children take those businesses and take it to the next level. And a lot of times when we start a business, it's us starting it, and then when we die, it dies. And so we have to figure out a way to have a plan that we have some longevity there. I don't have the answer to that. I'm just putting it out there about what we ought to do. How to get there, I haven't.
Well, I got the answer to my brothers and sisters. God has blessed us. The program that I'm working, the state agencies, we're going to have those resources there for you. Let me touch on something that Sister Amanda said. She was so right. When you look at your city and county boards, you have one representative versus 8. I was the lead plaintiff on a lawsuit that went to the U.S. Supreme Court against Charleston County for what she's speaking of right here. And in 2004, we changed that from that one person on county council from it was the at-large voting system. We changed it to the single-member voting system that you have actual representatives from the community. So you are correct. That's what we did in 2004. As a business owner, I'm somewhat. Let me see. I can phrase this. When we're looking at business, I actually, when we're discussing business, we're saying, are you doing all of the different levels of business? Are you operating on the local level, regional level, state level, national level, and international level? See, because sometimes when we're talking about just doing business with us, now we got to remember, African Americans are only 13% of the population. If you're a business owner and you're only doing business with us, that's 13%. That means that you're leaving 87 cents on the table. Now, is that as smart a business as we could be doing? I don't think so. So I think we want to collectively arrange our business in a way that we can get as much money as possible from whomever wants to buy our product or service. Because when Microsoft created the computer, they didn't say we just wanted it for people who are Asians or whites or blacks. They said whoever can use this product, we want them to buy it. And now what you do as Brother Richard, Pastor Richard was saying, in the Catholic way they were doing it, they were collecting all this money and being a great resource to the community.
Mm-hmm.
We can do the same thing. We have the different resources through the Small Business Association that you can be using right now for free. They have training all the time. I get emails from it's up there in the Myrtle Beach area, the Grand Strand. The Grand Strand store office sends me emails. They tell me when they have training. These are free trainings that anyone can utilize. So we have to make ourselves accessible to this information and then disseminate it to the community. Your church members, when you get an email from me, it says, please forward to your family, friends, and associates. Because we want to make sure that everyone is operating and maximizing the resources that our tax dollars has already paid for. So I'll leave it for a few minutes. And as you indicated, Amanda, these things are there. As you're talking about maximizing your dollars, yes, you are right. But how do we create enough cash flow to fund businesses, a hair care product place that we going, since we know we're using it all the time, even the church. There used to be a brother here, a pastor, that had a robe place. Anything that you needed out the church, they would go there. But that's a couple things. I'll let somebody else go ahead and talk now.
Okay. So I think all these points so far, man, it's just been far-reaching, and it's got to have some impact on some of these viewers, I'm sure. Okay, and this is good information. This is the kind of forum that we need to happen a lot, just absolutely a lot. And I'm glad that we have some progressive clerical guests today that I think can make a lot of things happen. But you're not the only ones in the community that can do that, but I'm sure that there are others. But so far, I think this is turning out very good. Just want to say something about your project of Pastor Brown, your warehouse project. You know, you are the CEO of that, right? And I recall you started this maybe 3 years ago, something like that. About 5 years?
Probably the better part of 5 years ago.
Could you want to give us a little overview of that? And I'm trying to piggyback on what Brother Lee Moultrie was saying, and Amanda,
Right.
comments on that. So if you could kind of, just walk through that very quickly, okay?
Absolutely. Several years ago, as a pastor, one of my biggest concerns was what I was seeing happening with at-risk African American males. Having a wife who is an educator, I've had the ability through her relationship with students to meet young men who have gone on to become great men. Just I could name several, but they've gone on and finished college and they're working, and some are in the field of education, some are doing other things professionally. They've done well. And as many as I celebrated walking across the stage, I was watching 10 times that walk into courtrooms. So we started looking at that and asking the question, how do we address that as a community? And one of the things was engagement. You can't, and we realized this years ago, you can't stand and observe and critique or criticize and say what should be happening. You have to get involved. You must get involved. And it starts with community. It starts with getting into the community and knowing the community. So the Warehouse Project by design is intended to get into the community and start the work with young men. We try to catch them before they get entangled in the court system. That was the goal. But to start with them and to show them the importance of education, to model what good behavior is, to show them financial opportunities as far as career choices and jobs, but to start somewhere. It was frustrating for me to see so many young men dealing with crimes and prison, and some of them, of course, because they were not 18, were being sent to juvenile detention centers. But we were watching that, and it was frustrating. And the goal of the Warehouse Project was to jump in and be proactive. And it's going to take that now. This is post this Trump administration. And now we've got to get into the communities, identify who is there. I heard Brother Moultrie say this, but we have to know who we're trying to reach. And then we have to educate those individuals and understand again that they're different. If I can share this quickly, even concerning how important it is to know the people that you live amongst, the people that you see every day, you would be amazed at how not knowing people, so many negative things can happen to them. More than a decade, probably 15 years ago, when I was pastoring over in Mullins, I remember, and praise God, they've elected a new mayor, African American mayor, and I'm excited about Mayor Woodbury, the elected mayor of Mullins now. But prior to that, I remember being in a city, and I kept up with all the demographics, the numbers, and it was like 78% African American. And I would watch African-American candidates run for mayor in a city where they made up 78% of the population and face defeat. I saw it happen back to back. 4 years, didn't win. 4 more years, they ran again, didn't win. And that puzzled me. But until we get out into our communities and show people that we care and help them understand the things they need to care about and help them understand government and policies and how these things affect them, if you don't make contact with them, you will not win. And as we go forward in the next several weeks, we need to go in our communities and find out what things are affecting them and how to address that. It's different in every community. It's not the same. What was it? The Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, I have become all things. We got to understand that you got to understand the culture, the temperature of your community so that you'll know what those people are interested in and what things you need to be focused on so that they can come out of those dark places. But that's what we were intending to do, is help parents come out of dark places with their young men.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Brother Steve, on that. I have this tendency of saying, brother, this, brother. You all don't have any issues with that, do you? No. I say my sister Amanda, you don't have any issues with that. I'm saying that because I ran into a case recently where a person asked me that, why you calling me brother? I said, it just blew my mind. Okay, so but anyway, believe it or not, it blew my mind. So that kind of, to me, it kind of gave me an example of a slight inclination of as to what we're not doing as community leaders or community role models, okay, for our young people. Okay, that was really mind blowing to see him ask that question, and as if he'd never heard it before, but no, we won't say anymore. So, Brother Steve, and I want to go into to others right now. Well, I'll just go ahead to interview now. How do you see, and are we holding back on our aggressiveness to hold our local officials accountable? And do you think that the tentative, I'm going to say, the new administration, if that comes into play, that's going to have any impact on what our energy that we have today is going to be put towards holding our local candidates or local officials accountable? Do you think that we're doing an adequate job of that now, or halfway decent job of holding them accountable? What do we have to do more?
Show up.
Okay.
I think we have to show up, and the thing that I'm most terrified about is that we get lax that our guy won, and then we regress back to where we were. I think I'm glad that we're having this kind of conversation, and I'm glad that there's pastors on this and community leaders on this, and I'm glad that people are watching. Because we have to mobilize ourselves and move forward. If not, we're just going to fall right back into doing what we did. Just like when I said when we did the Blackout Tuesday, we did it for a day, but did we make a habit of it? Did we make a habit of supporting each other? Did we make a habit of being successful in our businesses and providing good product? So I'm wondering, did we just vote like this for the one time, or are we going to be voters? Did we create people who are going to be involved after all of this, or did we just do it one-time thing? And that's my fear, that it was just a one-time thing, because you keep saying tentative the presidency, but there's still some runoff votes in our country that we could still drop the ball on. And so I don't want us to get comfortable in where we are today and forget that there's still a fight to carry on tomorrow.
Well, that was one of the reasons why I said tentative. Even though I guess you're talking about the presidential election, right?
Right. And I understand why you're saying tentative, because it's all a projection. But what I'm saying is that there are.
It's a little bit more than that, but I just want to be. I'm going to be conservative or careful about saying that it's over. Okay, I don't.
I mean, what I'm saying is the battle isn't over. And
right.
And so we shouldn't just put down our battle axe, but we ought to keep it fighting and keep it going.
And that's absolutely true. Sister Madden, I saw you shaking your head. You seem like you wanted to say something about that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I do feel some type of way about this, simply because I've already heard certain people. They're looking at the future vice president, the vice president-elect Kamala Harris, and I already hear people saying, "Oh, the Black community needs to hold her accountable," and I think we have to be careful with that. And I say that because as much as we're saying we need to hold her accountable, and yes, that is true, the reality is we have to hold all of our government officials accountable. That's where we drop the ball. We automatically say, oh, if there's a Black person in office, we have to hold them accountable. No. We have to hold everybody in an elected position. If they are in an elected position that they are supposed to be representing us, the people, then we hold all of them in accountable. And the same thing, it goes in our local community. When we look at our local community leaders, are we holding them accountable? Are they speaking up for the community? Same way we hold our pastors accountable. Are they speaking up for the religious community? So it's not just, oh, we now have a African-American, Asian American woman in one of the highest office in the United States. It's not that, oh, let's hold her accountable. No. We have to hold everybody who is elected in office accountable for what they do on behalf of the people. And then we also have to hold ourselves accountable. Let's not forget about ourselves and our power and what we can do to make our community better. And I think that's really what sticks out to me the most. We have to start holding ourselves accountable for what we do in the community. Okay. We can't put the blame on anybody else. When it comes to the Black community, the person that's responsible for the Black community is the Black community. So we have to start holding ourselves accountable for what we do, what we say, our financial decision making within the Black community, and how the Black community is growing. That's nobody else but us. Because when we start thinking about what's going on in Conway, South Carolina, we cannot look at the president-elect Joe Biden. We cannot look at the vice president-elect Kamala Harris and say, well, we got to hold them accountable. No, what are we doing right here in Conway, South Carolina? How do we hold each other accountable for how we make this community grow? That's all. That's all I got.
And having said, I'm glad you brought that up. Having said that, and on a local, like Tip O'Neill said some time ago, all politics is local. Let's get down to where you have a majority that's one party and you are of this party. And in most cases in Horry County, for example, or South Carolina for that matter, you have the majority of the legislature, and in Horry County, the council is predominantly Republican. Okay. Now, do you see an issue with going there and asking, and making them be held accountable? Because you can't do that. Okay, they're supposed to be for all of the people. Okay, and this is something I don't think that we're taking advantage of fully. Where a lot of us are Democrats. I'm not just saying a lot of people in Horry County are Democrats. And we look and we say, well, the whole council is just about Republican, and the county council, everybody's Republican. I think that can be an opportunity for us also. We can right, and we should.
And that's really where my mindset is at. Is that before we go say let's hold and I'm not saying let's not hold them, but I'm saying before we can jump and say let's hold the president-elect and the vice president-elect accountable, we have to say locally, who are we holding accountable? Are we holding our local officials accountable for what's going on right here in our backyard? That's to me is the most important thing, because what happens is we get our minds so caught up into the national that we forget about things that's going on locally. Because yes, the Congress, the Senate, the House, they make major decisions. But then if we're not being careful what's happening locally, that has a more direct effect on us in the long run, if that makes sense. So we can't get too caught up of, oh, we're only going to hold them accountable. No, we have to hold our local officials accountable. We have to hold all of our community leaders accountable. And even more important, we have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah, even if we didn't put them in, even if we didn't vote for them. Okay?
No, even if you didn't vote for them, it's what I shared when we first started out.
Yeah.
Each individual that are voting age must know who are their city council members, county council representatives, state legislators, and so on and so forth. So what we are talking about right now is doing a training on how do you empower the community.
Right.
Okay? Because you haven't done it. We haven't been taught how to advocate for change. One of the things I learned years ago, as you're speaking of Blackout Tuesday, years ago I was working with the American Cancer Society. So we wanted to protest against Altria, which was General Foods. So what we did was they said on the national level, no one used Kraft macaroni and cheese. So the stocks went down off that one product because they have so many products, you can't touch them. So when you're looking at an initiative as what you did there, that's good. But what was the ultimate goal? So the project that I'm talking about bringing to you, I'll be bringing the different resources to you, whereas you can see how do we train the community, the two different churches you have here. How do we train the people in that church, those churches, and the immediate community? They don't have to be members of the church. I'm not talking about no money. All of the stuff that I talk about is free. I don't need no, God has blessed me. Okay. I can have me some pork and beans and rice and I'm good. So we're going to bring the right resources to you. How do we empower those communities? As the pastor was speaking of trade, when each of us call a technician to our home for a plumber, heating and air, what do they say? It'll be $80 for us to come to your house before we get there. Okay. That's a trade. That ain't no academics when I'm at MUSC or USC. Okay. So let's look at those things. Let's look at how we're going to train our community. What we talking about right now? We at baseline now. So let's look at us coming back together. And then we setting up training sessions to educate the community on how to be empowered. I'll be sending all of you information, and then we be working through this together. We don't want to beat nobody up for what we didn't do before, because sometimes people didn't have that technology. Right. Presently, I'm working with the people in Georgia to get those two guys their seat there. So as a fighter that I am, God has blessed me to be, I'm out there on the front line. And my job is to build relationship with people cross section, that we can bring this information to our community, people who trying to get in our community, but sometimes some of the gatekeepers are not after the best interest of our community.
Absolutely.
My job is to tear them away. Because once you've done, God has blessed me, I'm a Desert Storm veteran. Once you done gone to U.S. Supreme Court, once you done been to the Million Man March, and you're from the hood, you can do a lot of stuff.
McQueen, can I share this? I know the time is running close, but how many of you remember this movie impacted my life so much? Just actually one particular part of it But do you remember the movie with Spike Lee, Malcolm X?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene where
At
they
the
marched to the hospital?
Yes. One man.
One man had influenced that entire community. One person. And he stood in front, and the police, he was waiting for a report from the doctors. But that police chief looked out and he said to another police officer,
too much power.
He said, that man has too much power.
Yes.
It's too much power for one man to possess. The fear was he saw the unity. The fear, he saw community. When we start talking about community, it will trump, and I say that no pun intended, but it will trump Republican, Democrat. It doesn't matter what party it is. When we get into our communities and we make Mother Jane feel important because her issues are important, we make young brother over here, Brother Billy, feel important. We go in and we invest in the struggling mom who's got the kids, and we looked at her bad because she got a couple of baby fathers, but we care about her. We're interested in her. When we can go in and do the work, which is what we have to do now, that's our mandate. Go into the communities and work. I'm not waiting on anybody to come and do what we're supposed to do. We can't wait on somebody to ride in and say, we're here to rescue your community. We have to rescue our community. And then as we're helping, they join us. It's not they go sit down, but we train them so that now they become frontline workers with us to continue to build a community. And then when you show up to a county council meeting, come on in here. Now somebody's going to whisper and they're going to say, Miss Butler just showed up outside and she got about 200 people with her. See, that is what they're fearful of. It's not just one voice. It's that one voice that has influence that can go into a community and bring forth people who they wrote off. No. So when I think about that movie, Malcolm X, that was the most powerful part of the movie to me. When that police officer, that chief looked up and he said, that's too much power. And when he saw Malcolm get word, wait a minute, okay, everything's good. Brother Malcolm raised his hand and said, let's go, we out. And as soon as he did that, I said, game over. Because now they saw unity. If they look at us and they don't see unity, if they look at us and we don't care about our community, if they don't see us in the trenches, then they're not going to care about us.
And we're going to get in some of our future broadcasts here. We're going to, I'm going to get back with you, brothers and them sister. We're going to talk about what we can do in the community, and even down to cleaning it up physically. Okay, so that it can be, if we can beautify our community to make it attractive, that people would want to come in our communities. Okay, and that starts with one block at a time. If you're in the city, and I think if that trend can catch on, I mean, this could be something that's unprecedented, especially over the state, because it seems like every county looks the same. Okay, in certain communities, and I ask myself the question: does it really have to be that way? I don't care what kind of money we're making. Does it really have to be that way? And somebody told me, say, well, let's start from within each household. So I mean, I guess that may be streamlined on a different tune, but that's just, I wanted to bring that up. Now, I also wanted to say something about the word unity again. I think it seems like everybody's on board with that. Okay, and suppose the four of you and more clergy, and I don't know, it may be occurring right now. At least it was attempted by the one of the organizations in Loris. I think it was the Baptist building out in Loris. But suppose the four of you start something like that, and 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 ask others of the clarity and people who the community actors like Brother Lee Moultrie. So what do you think? You think that's feasible? Do you you all know each other now, at least anyway. Now, and I say now because Brother Lee is just joined. But you think that's feasible? Because I see just tremendous benefits from something like that. I really do.
Brother, when I speak, I mean, God has blessed me for the past 32 years. I'm speaking what I am actually talking about. I didn't say that I was probably going to do. I said, this is what is in action now. You don't bring me to the table to play around. I'm the real deal.
Good stuff.
We are in conversation right now that we can talk about community organizations that I will present to you guys, to the individuals on here, for your community to see how do we teach the community members how to do what I just articulated. I didn't say I'm going to Google this to try to figure it out. Right. It's what I'm talking from within my spirit. This is what God has blessed me to do. If we have the desire to do, if you want to do it, I can show you how you do it. And then I say, okay, I'll see you later. I can go relax on the island then. But it is for us to use this resource. As the brother talking about the warehouse. Did you know that the Department of Employment, Unemployment Office have bonding for people that have been in prison? They have the bonding for them. And they also have credits for business owners to hire people that have been incarcerated.
I need to talk to you.
Where's that, Brother Lee?
I need to talk to you.
Where's that?
That's what I do. My job.
I talk to you too.
The reason why I need to talk to you about that, is I'm running into many situations where that's a need.
Well, it'll be in your email in a few minutes. You just got the hospital email a few seconds ago. I just sent you the hospital scene.
You're awesome, brother. Can I say this quickly? Amanda, I was going to reach out to you and Richard anyway, because I think it's time for this, and I think we need young minds. We need to be inclusive, but I think it's time that we work together and get some things done.
Well, yeah, most definitely. It's a joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as Sister Amanda is talking about with her business there, making sure that the infrastructure is there to do whatever she wants to do, the basketball teams, everything, man. We got it. My job is to sit at the many tables. As she's speaking up, I'm sitting at many tables that we can bring the resources in here. So let's do it, man. So after we're finished with this, y'all got my email. I'm going to send you this email on the workforce thing. Great people at the employment office. Any needs that you have for your community, shoot me an email and I might tell you, this is the person who got it. That's the person come. And once we finish this COVID, I'll be able to come and sit up there with you, break bread, and we can do a Zoom, we can do a telephone call, and strategize on how do we rebuild that community, any community. And no money. We ain't talking about no money. I'm getting away from the pimps. I'm the one that killed the pimps, okay? We're getting away from them. They don't want that hold us back too long, okay? And it's all in love. It's all in love. We got to do this. It's ordained because we were so close. We were so close to going back to where we should not have been. And we cannot take that for granted. Michelle Obama told us it could get worse. And we were playing around. We cannot let that happen again, because that's talking about our children and our grandchildren being in prison, enslaved behind stupid stuff.
Yeah.
That's craziness. This is for me. This is what I do for our people. When God blessed me to come in the household of faith 32 years ago, I know. So we have to do this thing here. We can't just take it easy, tiptoe through the tulips, go to the club and kick back and all that stuff. No, we got to teach people what they say, civic engagement. What is civic engagement? Oh, I voted. Well, what else you doing? Well, that's my civic engagement. Well, who's going to do precinct organizing? Who's going to register the people to vote? Who can be a poll worker? What else are you doing with your trifling behind? You know, I ain't as educated as y'all. I ain't no HBCU.
Man, you know, I was glad you threw a little bit of humor in there. We need that sometimes, okay? Because and having said that,
Brother Lee, I see why they barred you from the church.
In love.
so they did it in love, okay?
They did it in love.
Yeah. So I recognize something. I guess a lot of you have also, and that is our and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've witnessed and I've gotten a lot of affirmations on this is that the membership of our local churches and around the state is declining. Can you all what do you think is the reason behind that? Start with Sister Amanda. I know you don't have a church, but
but I have a response.
that's why I want to start with you.
I will say this. The decline, I'll say it this way. There has been a steady decline within the Black church. This is not something new. Years ago, there was it's something called the sociology of religion, where we're looking at trends between large mega churches, large churches, medium churches, and small churches. So yes, it is not new that there is a decline within the Black church. But then I also have to think about, what are we giving the people? And I say it that way is because, you know, there in education, it's called Maslow's hierarchy of need. So you have to address the people by what they need. And yes, we do need spiritual food. Yes, we do. But while we're preaching to them, we also have to tell them, how do they manage their finances? How do you build yourself up financially? How do you manage your money? You know, they're coming to the church for more than just spiritual food. And yes, spiritual food is important, but we also have to address the needs of the people. Now, I think with the Black Lives Matter movement, you're now seeing a bunch of young people who are coming to churches and they are hurting. And yes, we want you to preach Jesus, but we also want you to preach to our souls to say, yes, I see my brothers and sisters dying in the street every day. Tell me how to love my enemy. You get what I'm saying? So we have to be able to reach the people where they are. We have to preach and to provide their needs. And yes, we love to say Jesus provides all of our needs. And yes, he does. But at the same time, we have to reach our brothers and sisters and we have to tell them social justice is an issue. And I think we can't be afraid to address that in a pulpit. I think we have to talk about economics because that's a need, because it's hard for Christians to go to church when their light's about to get turned off. I'm sorry, my shout ain't the same when I know my light's about to get cut off. So we really have to start addressing the people's needs and meeting them where they are. Not saying that that's going to increase church attendance, because I do believe COVID has brought the church into an evolution, and the church has to evolve. And I think COVID has forced it to evolve. But what I do think is that now pastors have an opportunity to be leaders outside of the four walls of the church. I'm gonna leave it to the rest of the pastors on here.
I think I have a response too. And I've been thinking a lot about the emptiness of our churches. And I preached last Sunday in Exodus, where we've been walking through the tabernacle and God's instruction on building the tabernacle and the purpose of the tabernacle. And on last week, we got to the gate, and we talked about the gate that God instructed Moses to put in the tabernacle, understanding that the tabernacle serviced over 600,000 people, but there was only one gate, which is symbolic to the fact that there's only one way to God, according to Scripture. But also the gate into the tabernacle was not a narrow gate. In fact, that gate was very wide. It was about 40 feet wide, and there's no doorway that's quite that wide. And the symbolism behind that was that the gate ought to be wide because it serviced so many different kinds of people. And I believe that the church has lost its connection with the community because we're not relevant, and we have narrowed the gate. We ourselves have been gatekeepers, and we have said only these kind of people can come. You have to be this kind of, you have to think this way. You have to do these things. And if you don't meet those criteria, not the criteria that God sent, but our criteria, then you can't come through the gate. And I think we have not been relevant in that way. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm preaching and teaching that our church ought to be a real church, one that I'm gonna say it again, one that is relevant, one that is effective, alive, and linked to the community. And I think the reason why we are suffering as a church is because we don't have those four elements. We're not relevant. We are preaching to the choir. We are holding traditions, and traditions. The definition of a tradition is keeping up the what the dead believed in. But we are yet alive, and so we have to be relevant. And then we got to be effective. We can't just be doing stuff. We can't just be having services for the sake of having services. We have to streamline it. It has to make sense. And we're raising up a generation that if it don't make sense, then they're not going to be a part of it. I can't tell my 7-year-old just trust in God. He doesn't. He needs to know why he needs to trust in God. And so there's a generation that's coming up that you can't just say, tell God thank you and it's going to be all right. And if you have a problem, the Lord will work it out. That's true. But we have to figure out how to explain that to people that they might understand how the Lord works it out, how the Lord uses struggle, how the Lord still shines on us, even though we feel like we as a people, we've been picked on for 400 years. God is still in the midst of that. God is still working on us. God is still delivering us. And then another aspect of why the church, especially the Black church, is dwindling is because they have a hard time reconciling the fact that we are serving the same God as our oppressor. And our oppressors who claim to know God have painted this picture of God that we don't recognize. And so because we don't recognize them, we don't want any parts of that. And so I've got a lot of family members, I got a lot of classmates, I've got a lot of people that I know and love who reject the gospel because of who's delivering it and the delivery of it. And so we've got to take that back as a Black church. We've got to take back the message and the narrative of God and project it in the way that we see God. I see God. I believe in God and I trust in God for the mere fact that he's a deliverer. I believe in God and trust in him because of what he did for the people of Israel. And I know that if he did it for them, he would do it for me. And so, and so we need to continue to project that and to preach the true gospel, because what's being preached in the church ain't the gospel. I don't know what it is, but it's no longer the gospel. And Paul says, if you put anything outside the gospel, then it's no longer the gospel. So.
Well,
I just want to say I love it. I co-sign on all of that.
Long ain't said that yet.
Brother, can it? That's wonderful. And I'm over here shouting because I love hearing preachers. COVID has affected attendance. COVID has affected attendance, and we know that. But again, meeting needs. When we fall short in the area of meeting needs, people will look in other areas. I heard someone mention, corporations like grocery stores. Amanda was talking about ownership and things of that nature. But you take, for instance, Walmart. The one thing Walmart does well is they strive to meet your need. They want to be your one-stop shopping place. Absolutely. We want to put the tires on your car. We want you to buy your glasses here. We want to do your hair, your nails. We want you to go get your apples and your oranges, your fruit. Then if you need meat, go buy your ribeye steak. Go, they want milk, eggs. Wait a minute. You need some underwear. Go over here and get that too.
Don't be surprised if you see a motel popping up.
but they strive to meet every need. And when you enter into their facility, most of the time, if you were thinking, I'll pick this up at Food Lion or I'll pick this up at another place, you say to yourself, I can get it all here. I don't need to stop by there. When we are meeting the needs of the community, then they'll come to the church for their answers. When we start teaching, Sister Amanda, as you said, financial literacy, we're asking people to give, but they're in financial distress at home. Right. We got to go into churches and start teaching. Watch this. And I know this is going to sound like, this is so simple, but we got to teach people how to balance a checking account, how to live on a budget. The penalty behind not paying a bill on time. Listen, everybody's been there. We've struggled a little bit, but when you don't, if your water bill is due on the 15th and you go beyond the grace of those days, they charge you an additional $10, $15. The average person is thinking, oh, it's nothing. Add that up over a course of a year. Man, that's almost $200 in penalties. So we got to teach the people of God more than just shouting and saying hallelujah and high five your neighbor. We've got to teach financial literacy. We got to go in a couple of Sundays out of the year, if not more, and just say, listen, I know you got the word of God, but turn to me to this chapter. He said in Matthew 25, he who is faithful over a few things, I'm going to make him master and rule over much. Close your Bible. Now come over here, brother so-and-so from so-and-so financial institution, and help us. If it's something that you can't do as a pastor, outsource it to somebody so that you can meet the need of that congregation, and now they grow financially. Because if a pastor wants to be taken care of, and I'm saying that's biblical, so you can do the work of ministry, you better have a healthy congregation, because you can't keep beating people over the head saying, I need you to sacrifice. And they're saying, Pastor, Mr. Pastor, I done gave you everything and my lights off. I done gave you everything and my insurance is behind. You didn't realize, but Pastor, I ain't got no insurance on that old Chevy out there. I drove to church today without insurance. I mean, it's all kinds of issues. Those are things that we have to teach. And we're looking out at our community, looking at the poverty. But I don't know any wealthy man who can't count and add his money. I don't know a wealthy man that doesn't know about investments. Wealthy people understand money. We're asking the church to walk in the blessings of God concerning finances, but we're not giving them the resources so that they can be empowered to manage finances. If God blesses me with a $65, $75, $80,000 a year job, and I don't know how to manage $8,000, that $80,000 don't mean nothing. Because I'm gonna waste it and do all kind of crazy things. But if you can give me a $20,000 a year job and I can manage that thing, and I don't have to drive a Mercedes. I'm driving something simple that I can afford. I might have even bought my car cash, but I'm managing it. Now that person becomes the person who can be entrusted with more. And we need to grow our community in that area so that, again, as Sister Amanda said, and so many others, we're not looking at just being consumers. We are the biggest, but yet one of the smallest demographics, but we're the biggest when it comes to being a consumer. We spend when we should be teaching that you got to put some aside for a rainy day. You're going to get older. You need retirement. You're going to need some investments. You need to take some of that money that you're making right now and do something with it. So it can't just be, preach me into heaven. That's salvation is the most important aspect of the gospel. But he also said that he wants me to prosper while I'm here. And in order for us to really salvage our community, it's not going to come just through preaching salvation. We're going to need some money too. We're going to need some smart people who can invest, and we're going to need to see some wealth be transferred from generation to generation.
Okay, we've got a few more minutes here, but I just wanted to.
Wait,
I'll get to you, Brother Lee. To our viewers, please note that we have clergy and Brother Lee here. But the point I want to make is that we don't have observe the age group of Sister Amanda, Brother Stephen, and Brother Richard, Reverend Richard Williams. You please be advised that you're talking about a different generation as from 15 and 20 years ago. Okay, and that's why they're talking like this. They want to see change, and they're not waiting. And correct me if I'm wrong. There's no pie in the sky. Okay, in the by and by. All right, if I'm saying that right, you know what I mean. So I think that's an acceptable way of thinking, and I think that the youth community can associate with that. They can. I think they can. That's more acceptable to them. I'm not taking anything away from our older generation of preachers. You know, they've served, and I believe they've served well. I really believe so. God is the best planner. You know, He allows certain things to happen. As we seemingly, this is a transition that's taken a long time. That is going from that generation which preached and stayed with what's in the Bible and very little economics at the pulpit, and now that's being transitional. I mean, it's coming to that point where you all, at least you have expressed it, that that's what you want to talk about. And it's not all about just money, but economics and a better well-being for the members of your churches and for the community in general. And
I didn't get a chance
I'm really glad that we have you all on there to articulate those kind of things. So, Brother Lee, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My everything that everybody said was written down on my paper. Because I feel, and I've said it for years, the church community and our pastors have diminished the potential power they could have had. They could have had. Once you moved into the arena with COVID in March, whatever relationships you didn't have with anyone outside of your church, it is very unlikely or very difficult that you're going to create that. Be it with the banking community, be with any aspect of the business, any other services you need for people in your church. Because if you didn't have that relationship before then, it makes it that much more difficult now, because we're not doing networking and coming together as we do in the business arena. So any relationship I had with the different chambers of commerce, being in Washington, D.C., Columbia, and other business owners, be it Google or Blackbaud or Boeing or whatever, those are things I've been doing for 20 years. But if pastors have been sitting in that church and they did not extend any relationship besides just pastoring, then more than likely that has contributed to them and that demise in helping their people in their community and or in the church. So that's another aspect that we'll be building up also. Because if you have this money going into a bank and flowing through there, we want you to do this. We just had a session with a church down here in Charleston with the Black Bank out of Columbia last Thursday, I think it was. Again, it is important that we're sitting down at the table with different ethnic groups, different industries than we're in, and having these conversations on how they can help us, how we can help them, our elected officials, whomever it is. But it has always been, I've felt, and even when we at the university, I'm at MUSC and the Medical University of South Carolina, University of South Carolina. We tried to get pastors to come in and be a part of what we're doing. They were somewhat reluctant. We tried to come to the church and do a educational session on healthcare. Well, brother, you got 2 minutes. Can you go ahead and knock that out? And can you hurry that up? And so that's when they were eliminating themselves from those relationships. And how do you leverage relationships? So we can be working on that also. How do we restore this when we come out of COVID? Again, and what you talked about, the new generation, since I'm 64, I just posted something on Facebook today about Kamala Harris' mother. And I said, I was talking to my wife, I said, how fascinating it was for her mama to decide at 18 years old, she would leave India and come to the United States. And now her daughter is the vice president of the United States. That community, Kamala Harris' mother and potentially her parents, made that decision along with her community for her to take that trip to the United States, not knowing anybody that she's going to do that with, land in Oakland, California. Now this young lady is the vice president of the United States. Now, it's incumbent on us, that's what I'm building to, it's incumbent on us to work with the younger generation in our community now, that they can be that next girl or young man.
Right.
That's what our responsibility is. But we have to let them know you can do that, like the brother got the warehouse. If they listen to us, as Brother Edward said, younger people on here, if you're younger than 64, you may want to listen to a little bit I got. You young lady, you may want to listen to what Sister Amanda is talking about. The two pastors on here, these brothers got some information that can help you. Brother Elwood got some information. All of us can help you because our journey has been a little different. But I bet you it'll make your life a little bit more richer if you listen to us for a few minutes. Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much. We dispense information on the Whittemore Community Magazine. That's there for everybody. Everybody knows that. So, but anyway, we're coming to a close now, and based on the information or discussion that's taking place, you can see the need. And I think my viewers will back this up. The need for more of these kind of discussions to continue on. Okay, and you all are welcome back at any time. But there, you can see the great need because you dispensed, or you conveyed. Let's say it that way. You conveyed some very strong messages to our young people and to everybody in general that we really need to hear. And the title, the purpose of the program was for you all to respond to the question, where do we go from here? Is this the beginning of something different? Stuff like that. And we dwell on politics, but all of this, what you said, even in talking about the membership of the churches and everything, that's politics, whether we want to admit it or not. Okay, all that's politics. And so I just want to say in closing, unless should I ask for any final remarks from you all, or you certainly welcome to do that. Okay, but if you want to say anything, limit yourself to at least about a minute or so, okay? All right, so where you want to start?
Thank you for the opportunity to be with y'all tonight. Thank y'all for the opportunity to be with you. I'll shoot you a quick email on some of the things that I talked about, and let's us have another conversation offline, whatever, and let's see what we can do. I just thank God for blessing me to be with y'all, all of you on Facebook, and how do we enhance the quality of life of individuals in our community and society as a whole.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brother Lee. And Brother Lee,
Okay. Likewise, always an honor to hear Amanda. I am so, you just don't know. I am so excited about what God is doing through you.
Look out now! If we see her standing outside with 200 people,
oh man, she's amazing. She's amazing. Brother Richard, always. You know, I'm humble, and I'm looking forward to working with both of you. Brother Lee, you're one of the fastest brothers out there I know, man. As we were talking, you were already emailing me. I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to connecting and doing something. And I don't want us just to talk about it, but I want us to do it, to get it done. We've done a lot of talking over the past years, and oftentimes it's not always fruitful. So I'm excited about this discussion. You guys made my day, just to hear like minds. Praise God for you.
Yeah, this seeming to me like we need to continue this, and if not next week, at least the week after. So, Sister Amanda, Minister Amanda,
I would just employ you not to rest. There is a song that says, "We who believe in freedom cannot rest." So, we celebrate the victory that we are getting a new commander in chief that will not be as divisive in this country. So yes, let's celebrate, but we do not have time to rest. At the simple fact of the institutionalized racism, the systematic racism that has flourished under the present administration, it has to be addressed. We have to make sure that we are putting the local officials in place that need to be there. If you have local officials who are not speaking up for the community, we have the opportunity to change that. And so now that general election is over, let's strategize to say, do we have the right people in place? And if we don't, how do we get the right people in place that's going to speak up for our community? We don't have time to rest. It's time to work.
Time to work. Absolutely, man. Reverend Williams.
I want to first apologize. My phone died. I'm out at the church, and so I had to come out to my car to get back on the end of this. But I have just really enjoyed just being a part of this conversation. My wheels are turning. I don't feel like I've input as much as I have taken from or will take from this conversation. And Brother Moutry, please some guidance. Am I there?
Yeah.
You got to repeat that. Nobody heard you.
Wait, you're muted. Still muted. All right, we'll come back. It's okay. We'll come. Everybody's been emailing each other, so you all know each other's email address by now. So, okay. So, you all are not muted, right? Sister Amanda and Pastor Brown.
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. Reverend Williams, I'm sure there'll be some communication between you and the rest, and you can, you convey all that information, and including myself. You can send me some of it if you think it's worthy. I'm sure it is. So, but anyway, I really want to thank you all for really engaging in this discussion and showing enthusiasm as to what you think needs to be done. You seem to be full of energy, and I hope people have been captivated by your energy that you are conveying, your energy to want to have something done and not just talk, your energy to move farther with something and don't just stay on our laurels, rest on our laurels, so to speak. So I really appreciate all of that. And to our viewers who are viewing in, and especially my sister April, I just missed you. she's on a well-deserved hiatus, man. She's been working very, very hard on summer enrichment program, on other things. She's helping other people out, and she'll come back. She promised. She said she'll come back. Yeah, and I really miss her. She has that's a skill there also that she's capable of doing. So on behalf of her, I'd like to say to you and our viewing audience that we'll, if you can agree that we can continue on, and we're going to have another set of people that you can choose. Maybe you want to have somebody to come on either next week or the week after to help facilitate something like this again. You know, some other people who you think need to be heard, and that you know, we can join in. Okay, so we don't want to let our audience think that we're limited to just the viewers that they have today or our guests today. Having said that, I want to bid all you farewell, and we'll see everybody next week, 7 p.m. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Godspeed, and we'll see you next week.
Much love to everybody.
Thank you for watching the Whittemore Community Magazine live on Facebook. You can watch a rebroadcast of this episode by visiting WCM Live on YouTube.